Great. All right. Well, sorry for the late start. Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to my presentation on what the City of Los Angeles is doing during these crazy times and how we're leveraging data in a time of crisis to, address COVID-19 and the subsequent economic fallout. So thanks everyone for joining me. A little bit of background info. The city of Los Angeles is the second largest city in the US. So we have close to 4 million people. We're the second largest after New York. We also are really geographically dispersed. So the city is over 503 square miles. And we were one of the first, let me just close that. We were one of the first major cities to offer free COVID testing. So in the early stages of COVID, we were able to launch some testing centers throughout the city and made it freely available. We're also, another fact about Los Angeles is that we're extremely ethnically diverse. We're a minority majority city. And over a quarter of our population is foreign born. So anytime we offer programs or services, we're always having to consider, just languages that we use and different communities and contexts for those programs. So I sit on the mayor's data team. We are within the mayor's Office of Budget and Innovation. And essentially, we manage a couple things. We manage data strategy for the city. We also manage the open data program for the city. So that means, any data that departments collect, we help them publish in an open and accessible way, so that researchers and community groups can work with that data. And finally, we work on data projects for other departments and for the mayor. So one of the first projects that we worked on at the beginning of the COVID crisis was just getting some basic information out on, the status of the spread of the virus and just some information about what you could do to keep yourself and your community safe. So the mayor's comms team stood up this website, coronavirus.la, where we house all information on programs and services and testing centers related to COVID. And one of the things we worked on early on was, the mayor's data deck and recovery dashboard. So every day we publish metrics on everything from, the case rate that day, case rates by neighborhood, hospitalization rates, all sorts of facts about, or all sorts of status updates on the spread of the virus and what the city is doing to contain it. We also have data on programs and services that we've stood up since the beginning of COVID. So an example of that, we have an Angelino card that we launched very early on to provide rental assistance and just cash assistance to low-income families. We raised about $20 million to give out those debit cards at the beginning of the crisis. Another program that we stood up was a senior meals program. So on the dashboard, coronavirus.la/data, you'll see the number of senior meals that have been delivered since the beginning of the crisis. And then a final program, COVID-related program that the city launched was Project Room Key to basically repurpose hotel rooms that were not being used at the beginning of the crisis for homeless individuals. And so we have all of those stats and the progress of those programs and more on the recovery dashboard. So I encourage you guys to check that out and see, compare and contrast with other cities. Another thing that I worked on early on in the crisis was a risk map. So we know from the CDC that communities that have a high proportion of 65 and over individuals, and individuals with cardiovascular disease and asthma and some other risk factors are very high risk. So if you go to bit.ly.2lap5lq, you can see a series of risk maps that we created to identify what are the most high-risk census tracts throughout the city of Los Angeles. And the goal was to help just triage resources, programs, and services to communities most at risk. So this is just a screenshot showing you what that risk map looks like. So, the census tracts that are highlighted in red have a very high proportion of seniors who have been identified as vulnerable according to the CDC's Social Vulnerability Index. So these are census tracts where, you'll want to set up some additional resources, maybe testing centers, to get to those communities most in need. Whoops. Okay. Another project that we worked on is a census outreach dashboard. So every 10 years in the United States, we undertake a census, which is just a count of the people who live here. And so, one of the complicating factors of this census is that there's now a pandemic. And so it's really impeded our ability to count and do outreach to communities. So one of the things I've been working on with our census outreach team is just mapping communities with really low response rates. So there's a toggle in this dashboard where you can see communities that have responded where less than 50% or less than 25% have responded to the census. And so that enables the team to basically focus their efforts on communities or census tracts that really have low response rates. And on top of that, I've layered information about COVID case rates. And this just enables them to bring PPE with them and bring information or resources and all sorts of things that will help those communities deal with COVID at the same time. So we're basically trying to deal with two crises at once. And this map has just been helpful in spreading the word about COVID resources, but also targeting outreach to communities that have not completed their census yet. So I encourage you, I think this is published publicly, so I encourage you guys to check out this dashboard as well. Another project that we have worked on is this digital inclusion dashboard. So we actually ran an article in the LA Times this morning announcing our, partnership with Starry Internet. They have agreed to provide free broadband internet to public housing in Los Angeles. So that was a really exciting partnership, and it's needed more than ever because so many students are now having to work from home and learn remotely. So not having access to broadband internet has become a major issue in our community. So as part of that work, we created a dashboard to understand where are communities that are most disconnected from the internet, and how can we work with telecom providers and tech companies to get broadband internet and devices to communities that need them most. So this was part of that initiative, and yeah, we're really excited about the partnership that we announced today with Starry Internet. We're hoping that that'll connect a lot more folks to broadband. Another initiative that we have been working on is this Know Your Community platform. So early on in the open data movement, we realized that, sure, we've made the data open to the research community, but not everybody has a technical skill set or ability to manipulate that data. So this Know Your Community platform has just been able to provide insights to folks about like the demographics of their community, 311 requests in their community, and all sorts of things that are happening in their neighborhood. And I guess, given everything that's happening right now with, protests and racial unrest, one of the things that the city of Los Angeles is really like refocusing its open data program around is publishing some racial equity data. So Mayor Garcetti passed ED 27, which has asked all departments to develop a racial equity task force. And as the open data team, we're now working with departments to publish some of that data that's related to equity. And sometimes it's not always intuitive, but things like, programs and services, capital investments that are happening across the city, procurement data, personnel data, that all has a racial equity component to it. So we're refocusing our open data program to pull in some racial equity data now. And the last thing I'll mention is we have this volunteer program that is more important than ever, considering all the budget cuts and the resource constraints that we have. So we are working with professional data scientists and the academic community to basically bring in volunteers to work on analytics projects at the city. So if any of you are interested, check out the Data Angels program. We're always looking for volunteers to help with our city data projects. It's a really great opportunity to give back and work on some impactful projects. And with that, I think I will wrap up. Thank you guys. Let me know if you have any questions in the chat. If not, have a great day.